What's up, guys? Back on that video grind for you today. And in this installment, I want to philosophize for you a little bit and discuss something called the hero's journey, which was invented by a man named Dr. Joseph Campbell. And the reason I want to discuss this hero's journey with you is because I believe that this concept can very well help you discover who you really are and help anybody with trials and tribulations that's going on in their own individual lives, but it can also help us understand what's going on in a global collective scale. And I'll kind of tie those things together a little later on in this video. But first, I will tell you about Dr. Joseph Campbell and outline this hero's journey for you. Dr. Joseph Campbell was a very renowned, very popular neo-Jungian psychoanalyst in the 1900s. And a lot of people who I follow, who have been very influential in my own growth, reference his work. And for instance, David Wilcock references it quite a bit. And another influential online mentor to me, his name is Elliot Hulse, and he has referenced this hero's journey a bit too. So the synchronicity of seeing them both talk about it gave me the kind of intuitive drive to research more into this, and I found it to be extremely helpful for me, so I'm passing it along to you. Now, his principal work, his most famous work, was a book called The Hero of a Thousand Faces, which Dr. Campbell released in 1949. And this book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, describes this hero's journey. And what Dr. Campbell did is that he studied myth. He studied many, many different stories, from the story of Buddha and Jesus to more modern stories. He studied many, many different plays and books and all kinds of stuff. And that's why he called it The Hero of a Thousand Faces, because this hero's journey is essentially a pattern, or it's a framework that discusses the hero archetype and how that hero transforms himself and overcomes everything to basically have a spiritual transformation, what you could literally call an alchemical transmutation, right? This hero's journey, it's not so much about the hero, it's about overcoming hardships and how that transforms you. So it's like a spiritual alchemy. It's really, really cool. Anyway, this hero's journey that he described in The Hero of a Thousand Faces, which interestingly enough, George Lucas actually made Star Wars based off this book, based off the hero's journey. And a documentary about Joseph Campbell was actually filmed at Skywalker Ranch. So a very influential work that not many people in this modern day and age know about. So very interesting, which is why I want to pass along this information to you. But this hero's journey, I'm going to summarize it as best I can. And it occurs in, Dr. Campbell outlined 17 steps that occur in 3 stages. There is the departure, the initiation, and the return. Okay? And I'll kind of paraphrase these 17 steps for you. So the very first thing that happens is in the hero's journey is called the call to action. And you can literally think of this with pick your favorite story or your favorite movie, and as I'm outlining these stages, think of how that story fits into this. This is like a perfect puzzle that literally any single story can fit into. I like to think of it in terms of Star Wars, or one of my favorite movies is Gladiator. I like to think of that too. But the first is the call to action, right? That call to action in Star Wars is Luke's aunt and uncle get blown to pieces on Tatooine. Or in Gladiator, that is Maximus Aurelius' family getting killed, right? There's always a call to action for the hero to embark upon his quest. So that's the very first thing that happens. And once that call of action happens, the second stage is the refusal. Call to action, there's the refusal to not go on this journey, right? Luke didn't want to go on it, but then the mentor enters into the picture. That is step 3. So the mentor enters in, that's Obi-Wan Kenobi, talks to the hero, and the hero then agrees to embark upon his quest, and that is called crossing the threshold. And once that threshold is crossed, the hero goes into what's called the belly of the whale, and that's when he starts fighting. That's when he has a lot of battles. That's when he befriends allies. That's when he meets his enemies, and even the enemies have different archetypes that they follow along that Joseph Campbell outlines. There's the I can't remember right now, but a lot of different archetypes, and the battles occur. There's always the temptress, whether that temptress is a woman or something else that tempts that hero. So there's a lot of archetypes that enter into this play for that hero. Now, once he goes through that belly of the whale, once he endures his trials and his battles, the final ordeal is what that hero then faces. And that final ordeal is, to get there, he must go through what's called the dark night of the soul. And that dark night of the soul is, there's even been many books written about this concept. The dark night of the soul is hitting rock bottom. It's realizing that it's basically the hero coming face to face with all of his issues and then transcending that. The dark night of the soul is that phoenix literally rising from the ashes. It's burning down and then transmuting. I like the word transmuting more than transformation, because transformation implies that it's still the same thing, just a little different. Transmutation has more of a connotation of being completely different, which is why I like that word better in terms of alchemy and these types of archetypal changes. So the Dark Night of the Soul literally transmutes the hero. He then has his final ordeal, which is the final battle, overcomes that. Once he overcomes that final ordeal, there's then the road back. And upon the road back, there is a temptation for the hero to stay in what's called stay in that world of spiritual transformation, rather than returning to his fellow man and sharing the gifts that he's found. So after the ordeal and after overcoming that temptation to refuse, then it's the road back and the reward. So that's kind of an outline of this hero's journey, and it's very profound work. I'll link a couple basics down below, and I invite you to look into this hero's journey because of how individually it can help us understand our own call to adventures and our own, it can literally help you understand yourself, that these archetypes that different psychologists and psychoanalysts like Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell and Robert Moore deal with are extremely helpful in understanding yourself. And we all have our own calls to adventure. We all have our own mentors in our lives, whether we know that mentor in person or it's like an online mentor or whatnot. And we all have our own dark nights of the soul, our own rock bottoms that we hit, that we have to realize in our lives, like, shit, I'm going to have to change, or things are going to keep going the way they are, whether it's in a career or a relationship or whatnot. So this concept of the hero's journey is something we all embark upon. It's almost as if our souls incarnated into these bodies on this earth to each have our own hero's journey. Do you see? Now, not only does this hero's journey apply to us individually and can very well help us find ourselves, but it can, as with that law of correspondence, as above, so below concept, right? It also allows us to see what's happening on a global scale. And globally, what's going on is that humanity is going through that dark night of the soul right now. It's pretty obvious if you just turn on the TV or look online that things are crazy, things are insane out there, and so many people are having so much internal tension, and things are so insane because of this dark night of the soul we're going on. And we'll quickly, this is already a 10-minute video, but I'll summarize it quick here. humanity is, right, it's balls deep in its own hero's journey. We've had the call to action. What was the call to action for all of us collectively? It was realizing that, oh my God, there is a power-hungry group that's at the very top of the totem pole that's completely controlling the planet. This call to action occurs. There's the refusal, right? The refusal is that ego not wanting to see the darkness. That refusal is literally people putting their head down, acting like an ostrich with their head in the sand. The mentors come along. The mentors to humanity collectively is all of those that have come to us to speak their truths. Bruce Lee, Nikola Tesla, Jesus, George Carlin, John Lennon, right? Usually the ones that the powers that be like to off, but could be any of them. They were all mentors that incarnated here to help us collectively grow. Those mentors are spurring that threshold of us to cross, right? Many of us have already crossed that threshold, and we're doing the work necessary to help free our fellow man, which is what I'm doing with these videos. And we're going through that battle. We are obviously seeing the many, many enemies that we are facing in this world, but we're also finding many allies, and our allies are each other. That we are our tribe, right? Our family that we're finding along this process. And many of you commenting on my videos are the tribe, are the family that we're each finding each other in this process. So thanks to YouTube for helping me find you guys. And then after this, what's currently going on right now is that dark night of the soul. And the big thing to note, what I want to finish this video with is, with this dark night of the soul that we're collectively going on with, we have to face that darkness. We have to face the bad stuff that's going on this world to transmute that, right? It's a common fallacy. It's a common bullshit in New Age ideology and dogmatic religion is that, we don't want to look at the darkness. We just have to focus on the positive. Focusing on the positive is all we need to do to save ourselves. That's BS, in my opinion, because you need a darkness. You need that to catalyze you to come to consciousness. Without darkness, you can't have light. So you cannot avoid the darkness. You have to face it to then transcend that duality, you see? And the cool thing is, in all honesty, there is so much darkness on this planet, which is scary, but it's a very, very good thing that there's so much darkness on this planet, because that's going to have such a catalyst to have such an amazing ascension process once that darkness is fully realized, right? So the more darkness there is, then to catalyze you to have more light. If there wasn't if it wasn't such a low vibratory plane we were here on, we wouldn't have that catalyzation to such a grand ascension. So that's the point that I'm making right here is, look at the darkness, but don't fear it. You should be grateful for it, because it's going to make us collectively have such a wonderful awakening experience together. So anyway, that's the hero's journey that I wanted to outline for you guys in this video. Long video, I know, but it's a very complex topic, and especially when you're looking at it both individually and collectively, it's a very, very important to understand, in my opinion. So I hope kind of understanding that hero's journey will help you understand what's going on in your own life. I hope it'll help you understand what's going on collectively as well. And the phoenix is rising. The phoenix of humanity is rising. We're all going through this spiritual alchemical transformation together. So hang on to your hats, and let's all hold each other tight as this process unfolds. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please support me in any which way you can, sharing this information, donating, even checking out some what's on my website as well. A lot of health education on there. I just try to help in any which way I can, and I'm grateful for you guys that support me in doing what I do. So stay tuned. There will be more. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. Peace out, guys.